Thanks for joining us for our latest Auto Talk video. We've got a really important guest today at a really important time, I guess, in Toyota New Zealand's history. Just over the last couple of days, we've heard the news that long-running Chief Executive Alistair Davis is stepping down from the role, and he is being replaced by current Chief Operating Officer Neeraj. And Neeraj joins us today. Thanks, Neeraj, for joining us for a chat.
Great, thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I gather it's a bit of a emotional or interesting day there today at Toyota New Zealand. You are in the process of farewelling Alistair. Do you just want to say a few words about Alistair and what he means to you and the company?
Oh yeah, look, it's been a fairly emotionally charged day today for not just me but for our whole company. We farewelled Alistair at a special staff meeting today, and yep, there were a few tears shed. There were certainly a lot of memories shared today as well. A lot of good times. You know, we discussed, you know, some of the adversity or some of the challenges that we'd had in Alistair's sort of 40-year reign, but mostly it was around celebrating quite a epic time of our career, or his career, in terms of the changes that he's made and the contribution that he's made to both Toyota New Zealand and also Toyota globally.
Mm-hmm. And of course, he's not leaving the business entirely. He's still going to be around in presence as chairman, so he'll still be working closely with him.
Yeah, that's right. So you know, the beauty with this transition is that it's been a long time in the planning, and Alistair will continue his role. Will start his role as the non-executive chair of our board. So he'll still be accessible. I'm quite grateful to me in terms of you know, applying sort of his navigation skills around, and I'm sure he'll offer his advice on areas that he thinks we could be looking at. But look, Alistair's been a fantastic mentor for me personally, and many of our management and executive team. So to have him available on the chair is fantastic. He'll be available to us, you know, a couple of days a week, which I'm sure he'll enjoy coming in and out of, and I'm sure his wife at home will enjoy him spending a couple of days a week out of the house. But it's a fantastic transition, and it's you know, it's a great way for him to exit the business, but still remain a little bit connected through, you know, some good governance and some, you know, some support in terms of direction.
Now, coming in as chief executive, you're hardly a new hire to Toyota. You've been around for the bulk of your career. Can you just give us a really quick run through of how long you've been with Toyota and what you've kind of done during that time?
Yeah, look, I started with Toyota, you know, in the summer of 1998. So I sort of started in Jan of '98. Toyota was the only company I wanted to work for when I left university. We had an international marketing class where I was introduced to Welcome to Our World, and I was sort of captivated by, you know, the strength and the work that had gone into that campaign. But I was kind of inspired by, you know, a Japanese car brand being, you know, sort of, and how that brand resonated amongst the hearts of Kiwis. It's almost, you know, it's the only brand that sort of features regularly in the top 10 of all Kiwi most loved brands, and it's the only non-international brand to feature. So for me at the time when I was just coming out of university, that was a big motivation, given that I'd loved cars. I thought, loved cars, loved marketing. I thought that was a really good partnership. So I started with the company in '98 in marketing, and I've been fortunate to have been given lots of opportunities, and I moved through marketing into IT, into sales, into product, into pricing. Then I had an opportunity to experience the dynamic world of used cars, and I was really fortunate to work with our incredible team at Thames. And then I got the helm of marketing again, which was really good fun. And then I got the opportunity to spend 3 years in the US, where I got to experience a business on a completely different scale. I met some incredible people, and got exposed to quite a significant transition that I would never have imagined, and that was shutting down Toyota America's North America's head office in California, and helping relocate that business to Plano, Texas. My role in that particular transition was specifically on the Lexus side, but, you know, got to experience closing down the Scion brand in the US, which was an incredibly sad time, incredibly emotional time in terms of the people and the culture. And then, of course, I returned home 2 years ago to take over new vehicles and product planning, which I'm passionate about. And yeah, no, and it's been an incredible journey with an incredible company.
And of course, the American experience, I mean, is that almost a prerequisite now for becoming chief executive of Toyota New Zealand? Because Alistair did that before, and of course, there's the congruity there with that. He was part of the team that established the Scion brand.
Oh yeah, look, I certainly think that having some larger market experience is certainly useful in terms of just broadening your scope, I guess, or your frame of reference. In the US, we would miss, in my first month there, we missed our sales target by more cars than we sell in New Zealand in a year. So it just puts into context just the scale of the operation. You sell 260,000 cars in a month, and it's a whole different animal. So look, I don't think it's a prerequisite. I certainly think it provides you with a broader range of skills, and I guess given the time and given the improvements in technology and being able to sort of do work from different parts of the world now, I think that world will change. I certainly think moving forward, I think there'll be other ways of gaining that type of experience and opportunities when you start thinking of the future of work and what remote work even looks like. So I certainly won't say that it's a prerequisite, but it certainly provides you with a really solid foundation moving forward.
You must have an incredibly supportive family to handle the shift back from LA to the Manawatu.
Yeah, look, I mentioned to somebody this morning that I feel very privileged, and it's quite humbling to be given the opportunity to lead this company. But yeah, look, there's been significant sacrifice by my wife, and and I'll say my two girls, because taking two young girls to the States was really tough. Both of my daughters weren't overly enthusiastic in leaving their friends in Palmerston North, but of course it was even harder for both my wife and my two daughters to return back from LA and settle back in Palmerston North. So it certainly hasn't been easy for them, but I'm very lucky. I've got a very supporting family.
Not to imply anything terrible about the wonderful town of Palmerston North.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, for a teenage girl having spent 3 years in Los Angeles to transition back to Palmerston North, it was for her. It hasn't been an easy transition. So, my 8-year-old son, no problem. He's sort of it's like a duck to water. But yeah, my daughters have found the transition a little bit not as easy.
Now, you've been back in New Zealand for a few years now, and obviously you've rolled up to the position of Chief Operating Officer before this. What are you really proud about? What are you happy with in the current big machine that is Toyota New Zealand? And what do you think perhaps you want to do better? What you want to put your stamp on as Chief Executive?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of parts to that question. So the first part is, what am I proud of? I'm exceptionally proud of the culture and energy of the staff at Toyota New Zealand. And I'm hugely proud of the leadership group. And that's all of our chief executive officers across all of our Toyota stores throughout the country. 2 years ago, we set off on this journey to really want to change the way customers purchase new cars. And it was a big shift. Our stores were making good money. Our CEOs were comfortable in the old business model, and I guess for the courage of the staff and the CEOs of all the stores to actually completely pivot from the traditional way of selling cars to this new model has been a monumental sort of achievement by us as a franchise. And I think we've become more resilient. Our products have improved. Our service levels are slowly improving even further. And so I think we're in really good think we're in really good shape. We're in a really strong position to be able to move forward now with not just focusing on the new car experience, but now focusing on the full ownership experience. So I think we've implemented the building blocks to be able to deliver something really special moving forward.
And I guess in saying that, we're talking about the Drive Happy project here. I mean, how far through its progress and how far through to working and being successful as a project do you think it is? I mean, how is dealer profitability going? Is customer satisfaction coming up? What's the kind of status there?
Yeah, look, so our dealers, if you ask any of our CEOs at the Toyota stores about profitability, all of them would say, yes, we'd like to be making more. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that it'd be great for us to be able to make more profit as well. But in terms of just where the project is at, it's going exceptionally well. Prior to lockdown, we had over 3,000 paid customer orders in our pipeline. And last month, we had more RAV4 sales than any other car in the market, and we had more orders than cars that we'd sold. I think that from my time in the US, pricing transparency is the first step of delivering customers greater satisfaction. It's more transparent, it's more honest, and it's more fun. You don't need to visit 4 or 5 dealers to get the best price or feel as though you've succeeded or failed in a pricing negotiation. It is completely transparent. And that's not to say that a large fleet may not get a better price. It just means that all fleets the same size are treated equal, and that's all transparent. And that's how Amazon operate in the US, and that's how good, efficient retailers should operate, in terms of the future. Well, that's what we believe. So your second part of the question is, how far are you through it? This is just the start. So purchasing a new vehicle in this transparent way is just the start. So as I mentioned earlier, our goal is to provide customers with the best ownership experience. So how can you provide transparency, operational efficiency throughout the entire customer engagement process? So we are only at step 1 of a multi-step process. And I'm pretty proud of where we're heading and how that design is looking.
Fantastic. The COVID-19 obviously been a massive hit to the economy. You and I have spoken before about that and Toyota's reaction to it. But I mean, where are we at now, and how long do you think it's going to take for, Toyota, the car market, and even the country to kind of start to pull out of this?
Oh yeah, look, that's I'm sure if you spoke to Grant Robertson, I'm sure he'd sort of have a theory on it, and if you spoke to someone else, they'd probably have a slightly different theory on it. For us, we have been blessed that we have had an exceptionally good pipeline of orders. We've been blessed that we haven't had a high cancellation rate from our core customers. Clearly, we've had some challenges with the long-standing relationships that we've had with rental companies, which I think is a separate issue that I think is going to take longer to recover, and that's obviously just tied to the tourism challenge or the border controls that we've got in place. How long is that going to last? I don't know, but certainly I can see us having strict border controls for the remainder of this year as a minimum, which means that I don't expect for the rental market to bounce back, within the next 6 to 8 months potentially. So, as I mentioned, in terms of our Toyota stores, we've seen quite a rebound in the last, 4 to 6 weeks. A part of that is us delivering cars to customers that had placed orders prior to lockdown. We've had a good rush of business, similar to many of the retailers that we've heard even in the news over the past 2 weeks. We are forecasting though a softening of the market, but again, it's all speculative. So we have plenty of stock, I guess, given the situation with the rental car companies, for us to be able to deliver cars to customers, which is positive. So we've been working very closely with Toyota Japan. They have been unbelievable support. It pays to have a rich parent. through a crisis like this, and I can't speak highly enough of Toyota Japan. It's been a very well managed transition through this little crisis period for us.
Mm. And you say that it's nice to have a rich parent, but I mean, in regards to your dealer network, have you guys had to step in and assist or make any provisions for them during this period to keep their own businesses viable?
Yeah, look, we have. Without getting into sort of the details, it was really important to me that we stayed engaged with our Toyota stores throughout the country. We ran weekly staff meetings on Zoom or Microsoft Teams every week for our staff, but we also ran weekly meetings with our Toyota CEOs and branch managers right throughout the country on a weekly basis. So we knew exactly just what the status was. We went from one of probably the worst months of profit in the history of our network to, one of the better results in the space of, sort of a month and a half. So, but, the network's certainly not out of the woods. There's still a lot more hard work ahead of them. But as I said earlier, we have an exceptional relationship with our CEOs across the country, and the transparency of issues, understanding the issues, and the communication's been really good. So we have provided as much support as we possibly have been able to in terms of cash flow. So I think it's as we would expect, it's been a very good partnership.
I guess the argument there is for your dealers in a situation like COVID-19, your system where they're selling those vehicles to a customer rather than holding them is probably actually one of the safest models to be in a situation like we've seen in previous months.
Yeah, it has. So under our Drive Happy project, our Toyota stores are responsible for delivering the best customer service, so they don't have the burden of the holding costs on those vehicles. So other than them having to maintain and manage their demonstrator fleet, the vehicles come from a regional pool, delivered straight to the store, and then delivered straight to the customer. So the holding costs to the stores isn't as high as what it would have been under the traditional model. So we had nearly 460 cars in lockdown at dealer stores that we just hadn't been able to deliver before the end of March. But of course, the burden of that cost, it didn't fall on the network. That was a cost to our business.
Just touching on your reference to the rentals there, it's been somewhat known in the industry that Twitter's been dialing down its somewhat aggressive efforts in the past with the rental market. Has COVID changed that approach? I guess it's kind of brought any sales in that area to a screaming halt, really.
Oh, look, I mean, our realignment or our refocus happened 2 years ago when we launched the Drive Happy project. We made a strategic decision 10 years ago that we would implement a radical business model that delivered a much higher level of sort of satisfaction to our customers through our stores. But that wasn't necessarily the catalyst for dialing back the volume of cars that we would allocate to the rental channel. It was just more about adjusting our volume to a manageable level that our network were able to manage the capacity of the returns. So we probably went through a period where we sold probably too many cars down the rental channel, and then of course we had an issue of being able to dispose of the used cars in terms of our used car capacity. So we were slowly transitioning to a level that we felt was manageable, which was significantly lower than what we were selling before. So it was a deliberate strategy, but the strategy was also to align ourselves with customers that had been with us for 25, 30 years. So it was around providing them with some continuity, and not trying to be everything to everybody. So it was a very customer-centric sort of decision. And of course, through this lockdown, we've had to work really closely with those companies to maintain a level of respect and sort of common sense as we made the right decisions for our respective businesses.
on your used car operation, just bring that into the discussion. It kind of ties into that as well. We spoke to Turner's Auctions over the last couple of weeks, and they've actually stopped importing used vehicles in Japan temporarily because, as they say, there's plenty of opportunities in the local market now to process local stock. In regards to Signature Class and Soul by Toyota, which are significant channels for used import cars, have you guys taken a similar approach, or are you still importing? Or
yeah, look, I mean, given just naturally over the last six to 8 weeks, or maybe even the last 2 or 3 months, naturally it's been difficult to source cars in Japan, as in Japan they've been in lockdown as well. There's also been a tightening of domestic supply in Japan, which means that it's just harder to purchase cars in Japan as domestic supply has been recycled back into domestic use. So we certainly, through the lockdown period, we didn't make a deliberate strategy not to purchase any imported used cars at all. It was just difficult to purchase them because the auctions were limited and access to auctions were limited. So, arrivals last month were, I think, just over 4,000 units, and I think we registered nearly 10,000 used imports. So naturally, there's going to be a restriction of supply because we just haven't had many coming through. But look, we are still looking at moving forward in terms of used import hybrids. I think people in the past have had a view that our used imports have been Signature Class, but the majority of our Signature Class supply are actually New Zealand new cars. So we're finding that a nice tidy used import has quite high demand without needing to increase it to a Signature Class level. But we're certainly finding the demand for used import hybrids at the moment is still quite high. So that's an area where we'll continue to focus, given we've probably got the largest range of hybrids that we could offer our customers.
Now, you said at the start you're very much a product guy, and if I can speak from over here, I feel like it's been quite an interesting couple of years for Toyota, and it's the brand's kind of shifted from incredibly competent cars that weren't necessarily the most exciting in the market to some really interesting designs and really interesting offerings. You're pretty happy with your range now? Anything particular that's coming that excites you?
Yeah, look. I was really fortunate. My last 18 months in the US, I spent time with the Advanced Product Strategy Group, and our job was to look, at the long-term product development plans for Toyota, and they're over 5 and 10 year cycles depending on the models. And so when I returned back from New Zealand, I'd had a nice little entree into what was coming, and the design language, the treatments and interior treatments, the powertrain evolutions were really exciting, and we're starting to see those models hit the market today. RAV4 is exceptional. We've got CHR, which is really different. We've got Yaris Cross, which will be a new compact SUV, which is exciting and fun. We've got, there's no hidden secret that I'm a passionate Supra guy. Whether it be in our Lexus range, with new IS that was just launched last week globally. So look, I mentioned earlier, we're quite blessed in terms of having a strong parent company that's got, I think that's got the financial comfort to invest across multiple powertrains, partner with multiple different companies. What we're starting to see, what we're seeing again, because it's cyclical, and we're starting to see a whole new wave of new exciting products. So as much as I'm excited about driving my Supra home tonight, I have to admit I'm probably equally as excited as about the new facelift Hilux that's about to turn up as well, because I think that'll tow the go-kart trailer probably a little bit better than the Supra. So,
Now hybrids obviously are a very big part of your product mix now. I mean, how long are we looking until everything in your range, including your commercials, has a hybrid option? And when are we going to see more properly electrified models from Toyota?
Yeah, look, I guess you'll see fully electric vehicles from Toyota when there's demand for fully electric vehicles, grow at a faster rate. I know that's an easy answer, and of course, the cynic will say, "Oh, well, you're only saying that because you don't have one." One of the things I think we tend to do well is introduce product at the right time. It's taken a long time for hybrid demand to reach the level that it's at the moment. It's taken more than 25 years. We're selling more hybrid RAVs today than we are petrol RAVs. But it's taken 20 years for people to be comfortable with that type of technology. EVs, obviously, is I think where you're heading with this. We're within 18 months away from introducing our first full EV, battery electric EV, not self-charging hybrids, which I know many people don't like the fact that we call them self-charging hybrids. But our first EV is 18 months. But in all honesty, Richard, I think the value, we're the only car company that reached double digits in terms of weighted average CO2 reductions. We're hugely supportive of the government's drive to a low emission economy. And we're fully committed to the fact that it's a roadmap to achieve low emissions. And hybrids are the best solution at the moment. And the performance from hybrids are just getting better. So we've seen that in RAV. It's got a higher performance. It's got higher performance credentials than the standard gas model. So there's a sea change. So I think within the next 4 or 5 years, I do believe EVs will become a lot more prominent, and our charging infrastructure will improve even further. The challenge will be our ability to introduce EVs at an affordable cost to support mobility for all. That is the biggest challenge. Global production of lithium-ion batteries is still really tight. It's probably got potentially a little bit worse with the COVID situation. Until the prices of those batteries come down and the capacity of them improves even further, I think that transition will take a little bit of time, but I think we've got a good roadmap, to achieve low emissions. In terms of the transition for our country is actually quite positive.
And if I had, I end up defending, I think sometimes Twitter to people in the electric space that they've kind of ignored electric cars, but you have electrified options for your TNGA platform, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
that's right. So again, we've introduced an EV platform into China already. Again, I think the range and capability of plug-in hybrids is probably a little bit misunderstood. We've just introduced a plug-in RAV into the Japanese domestic market, and it's a performance car. So I think it's about making sure you introduce these products at the right time when customers are comfortable, as well as achieving, the emissions objectives and targets that we need to. So I think we've got you asked about our model lineup. I think we've got really good balance between, commercial vehicles and performance cars and sustainable cars. And I'm really proud that our Hilux sales are still really strong, but they're still less than 30% of our total sales volume, and they need to be for us to be able to achieve a sort of a balanced weighted average CO2. So that's hugely important to us, and so we'll continue to focus on that.
I guess as certain other brands have been accused of, you don't want to become the Hilux car company. You want to be something broader.
Yeah, correct. The fact that we have, I think from memory, three Toyotas in the top 5 cars sold in New Zealand. That's in terms of, I mentioned it to you earlier, in terms of building resilience in your business. You can only build resilience in your business if you share the love across all of your products. And at the moment, we're very fortunate, whether it's a Hilux, a Hi-Ace, or a RAV4 or a Corolla. We've got a lot of options for customers, which I think makes our product range and our offering quite strong.
And that first EV, I'm taking a guess, Lexus UX.
You just have to wait and see. I'll make sure you're the first to receive the press release when we put it out.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much for joining us today, Neeraj. Congratulations on the new role, and we look forward to seeing what happens from here on in with the Twitter brand in New Zealand.
Hey, great. You have a good weekend. Thanks, Richard. Good talking to you.